My name is Clara Jacobs. I'm 68 years old, a grandmother of 5, and until not too long ago, I believed I had lived a faithful and steady marriage for over 40 years. We met in college, me and James. He was charming, confident, with a smile that made me forget my name. I was just 19 when I fell for him, heart first, with no brakes. Everyone said we were perfect together. For decades, I clung to that illusion like it was gospel truth. I had no idea that behind his soft words and Sunday smiles, my husband was living a double life. James and I built a life together, 2 children, a mortgage, and eventually a modest little retirement plan. We made it through the tough years, layoffs, sickness, miscarriages, and I always thought that surviving those storms made our love unshakable. But it turns out, it wasn't the storms that sank our ship. It was what he was hiding when everything seemed calm. The signs were there. Late-night texts. Sudden business trips. That cologne I didn't buy. But I didn't want to see them. Because if I looked too closely, I might find out everything I believed about my life was a lie. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when I got the call. A woman's voice, cold, bitter, and trembling. "Is this Clara? You need to know that your husband has been sleeping with my sister for the last 6 years." My heart stopped. I sat in stunned silence, the phone shaking in my hand. "Who is this?" I managed to whisper. "She's tired of being the secret. You deserve to know." I don't remember the rest of the conversation. Only that when I hung up, my world was no longer what it was 5 minutes ago. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at James as he lay beside me, peacefully, as though he weren't carrying the weight of betrayal in his chest. I wanted to scream. To shake him. To demand the truth. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I decided to find out more about the woman. The next day, I called the number that had shaken my entire world. It was the woman again. Her name was Linda. Her sister? Her name was Melissa. She was 38, divorced, with 2 kids. And James had been paying her rent for years. "Ask him," Linda said. "But don't expect the truth." I didn't ask him yet. I needed to be sure. I needed more than a name. I needed proof. The next week I became someone I never thought I'd be, a quiet investigator in my own home. I checked his phone, his credit card statements, his emails. I felt ashamed for snooping, but not enough to stop. And then I found them. Hundreds of emails. Dozens of photos. A flight confirmation to Florida, the same week he told me he was at a work conference in Ohio. I read the words he wrote to her: "I miss you already, babe. Clara won't know. She never has." Each message was like a dagger. And yet, I kept reading. I had to. I had to understand how long I'd been sleeping next to a stranger. I waited until a Sunday evening. The kids were grown, the house was quiet. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "James," I said, hands trembling, "how long have you been cheating on me?" His eyes widened, but not with guilt, with shock that I'd figured it out. "Clara, it's not what you think." "Don't you dare," I snapped. "Not after reading your emails. Not after talking to her sister." He sank into his chair, rubbing his face like a man who had just lost everything. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," he muttered. Tears streamed down my face. 6 years, James. 6 years of lies. Of me looking stupid. He didn't deny it. And somehow, that hurt more. After that night, I couldn't look at him the same. I slept in the guest room. I avoided meals with him. Our home, once warm and full of laughter, became a cold battlefield. What hurt the most wasn't just the betrayal, it was the realization that I didn't know him anymore. That maybe I never had. He kept trying to explain. It was a mistake, he said. I was lonely. Lonely? While I was planning our 40th anniversary party? I didn't know if I hated him more, or myself for loving him still. Word spread fast, it always does in small towns. Friends stopped calling. Church members whispered. Even my own children were caught in the middle. My daughter Rachel was furious at him. My son, less so. Maybe he made a mistake, he said once. That broke me all over again. Was this what 40 years came down to? A man, a lie, and a town that pretended nothing happened? I refused to be invisible. Not anymore. I didn't plan to meet her. But it happened. I went to the cafe where she worked. I walked in, heart racing, hands clenched. She was beautiful, younger, dark curls, flawless skin. And she looked right through me. You're Clara, she said before I even spoke. You know who I am. Then you know why I'm here. She looked embarrassed, then defiant. I loved him. He said he'd leave you. I laughed bitterly. Did he promise you the same lies he gave me? She didn't answer. But I saw the truth in her eyes. She didn't win. None of us had. It took weeks of crying, of silence, of pretending in front of the grandkids. But one morning, I woke up and decided something had to change. I packed a suitcase. Booked a motel. Left a note on the kitchen table. I'm choosing peace. I'll let you know when I'm ready to talk. Clara. I don't know what hurt more, walking away from the house I built with him or realizing he didn't try to stop me. I started therapy. At first, it felt strange. Talking to a stranger about my broken heart. But with each session, I started to breathe again. I'm not angry anymore, I told the therapist once. I'm just tired. She smiled. Tired is the first step. Healing is next. For the first time in years, I began to understand that his betrayal didn't define my worth. I was more than his wife. I was a woman, a mother, a survivor. At the motel, I began writing letters to James. I never planned to send them. It was more like therapy. A way to empty the bitterness clawing at my chest. Dear James, I wrote in the first one, you took everything familiar and made it foreign. I walk through memories now like ruins. You were the man I made soup for when you were sick. The man I held when your mother died. And all the while, you held another woman behind my back. How many times did you lie with her and come home smelling like shame? The more I wrote, the lighter I felt. I cried between sentences. Some letters were angry. Some just asked why. Others were filled with the kind of love I was still mourning. In those pages, I began letting him go. Being alone after 40 years of marriage wasn't peaceful, it was terrifying. I couldn't sleep at first. The silence was too loud. I missed the sound of his keys jangling at the door, even though now it made me sick. But then came small wins. The first time I cooked a meal just for myself. The first time I went to the park and watched the ducks, smiling. The first time I looked in the mirror and didn't see a betrayed wife, I saw Clara, the girl who once dreamed of being a painter, who sang in the church choir, who had spark even before James existed. Grief, I realized, was like a wave. But with time, I was learning how to float. About 2 months after I left, James called. I miss you, he said. I want to fix this. I didn't answer immediately. I let the silence choke the air between us. Melissa's gone, he added. She left me. Said she couldn't live like this. I almost laughed. Of course she did. I don't want to fix this, I finally said. I want to fix me. And that doesn't involve you anymore. He cried. He begged. And for a moment, I almost softened. Almost. But then I remembered how he shattered me, not just once, but for years, with his deceit. And I hung up. It was the first time I chose my dignity over my longing. Her name is Ellie, just 8 years old. She crawled onto my lap one afternoon and looked into my eyes with innocence and truth. Grandma, she whispered, why are your eyes always wet now? I didn't know what to say. How do you explain heartbreak to a child? So I told her something simple. Grandma's learning to be happy again. Sometimes, that takes a lot of crying first. She hugged me tightly and said, when I'm sad, I draw rainbows. That night, I found a crayon drawing on my pillow, a shaky rainbow, with to Grandma written in big, hopeful letters. It made me weep. Not out of sorrow, but out of the healing love children carry. Grief has a way of shrinking your world, but healing can quietly open it again. I hadn't spoken to my old friend Martha in years. Life got busy. Kids, marriage, church. But one afternoon, she called. She had heard what happened. Word travels fast in a town like ours. I've been through it too, Clara, she said softly. 23 years of pretending my husband was faithful. Her voice cracked. We sat on the phone for hours, two broken women finding comfort in each other's stories. She cried, I cried. We even laughed at how naive we once were. It was the first time since leaving James that I didn't feel completely alone. She reminded me I wasn't just healing, I was returning to myself. A month later, a letter arrived in the motel mailbox. It was from Melissa. Clara, I didn't know the full story. I only saw my side. James told me lies, about you, about your marriage. I believed him. I didn't want to hurt another woman like this. It went on. She apologized sincerely. She explained how James had manipulated her, how he made promises he never intended to keep. She said she'd left him for good. I sat on the bed, holding the letter, stunned. Strangely, I didn't feel rage. I felt closure. I'd been carrying so much hatred toward her, but this softened it. Maybe we were both victims of the same man. And maybe, just maybe, that truth was enough to release some of the pain. 3 months after I left, I returned, not to stay, but to walk through the home one last time before the divorce papers were signed. James wasn't there. He'd moved into a smaller apartment. I walked from room to room. Touched the banister. Ran my fingers along the edge of the kitchen table where we'd shared meals, anniversaries, confessions. Then I reached our old bedroom, and my breath caught. On the wall was a photo of us, younger. Happier. A life frozen in time. I took it down. Not out of bitterness. But because I was done letting the past decorate my future. After the divorce, I moved into a small cottage near the lake. Quiet. Peaceful. Just mine. I filled it with sunflowers, photos of my grandchildren, and books I never had time to read before. I started painting again, something I hadn't done in 40 years. I painted memories. I painted sorrow. I painted hope. Each stroke felt like a prayer. I wasn't just surviving now. I was living. Friends came to visit. Ellie helped me plant daisies in the backyard. Rachel stayed for a weekend and told me she was proud of me. No one had said that in years. One cool autumn morning, I sat at my desk and wrote one final letter, but this time, not to James. To myself. Dear Clara. You survived. You wept, you shattered, you screamed into pillows in motel rooms. But you didn't stay there. You chose to walk away from lies. You chose yourself. And that is your legacy now, not as a woman abandoned, but as a woman reborn. You are not broken. You are wise. You are kind. You are fire and softness. You are enough. Love, Clara. I folded the letter, placed it in a wooden box, and smiled. This wasn't the life I imagined. But it was mine now. And it was beautiful. If you're listening to this and your heart is heavy with betrayal, loss, or the quiet ache of loneliness, please hear this. You are not weak for loving deeply. You are not foolish for trusting. And you are not alone. What happened to you is not your fault. Whether you were lied to, manipulated, or made to feel like you were never enough, you were always enough. You still are. Healing doesn't happen all at once. Some days you'll feel strong, and others you'll fall apart again. That's okay. You're allowed to break, and still be building yourself. You don't need to have all the answers right now. Start with the small things, choosing peace over chaos, truth over illusion, and your own worth over someone else's lies. You are not just what happened to you. You are what you choose to become next. And what you become, even if the road is long, will be stronger, wiser, and more radiant than ever before. You are allowed to start over. You are allowed to be happy again. And you are deeply, deeply loved, even in the places that still hurt. Hold on. You are going to make it. Thanks for listening. Like this video and subscribe for more inspirational stories.